Hey guys, my name is Jesse Makojwang. Professionally, I'm a teacher, I'm born again, a man of God. And today I'm here with my lovely wife.
Hi guys, I'm Lucy Jesse. This is my husband. I'm delighted to be here this day to share with you our story. And I'm very happy to know that someone is going to get inspired somewhere. Yes. And this is our love story.
So our first meeting,
Okay.
it was a service. It was a service where we were having a worship encounter. That's back in 2018, February. So we had a worship encounter in church, and I was one of those people who are ministering. So people came for the service, and during the service we were told we can lay hands on people because it was now impartation time. So when that time came, I went straight to her. I didn't know her, but I just went straight to her and I laid hands on her, and the power of God hit her. She jumped like 3 rows and fell down. That was my first encounter, but I didn't notice anything. I just prayed for her and the day ended, and that's how we first met.
The reason why I fell or jumped 3 rows backwards, it was nothing to do that I had noticed the guy. The reason why I had gone to church was, for me, I was seeking God. And I was so desperate for God, especially at that time. So I was just so willing to receive, and I needed answers from God. So it had nothing to do with there was a spark or anything. There was nothing like that. After we met the first time, the second time we met, I remember it was through a friend, his friend actually. We were going to visit my sister in Nakuru. So he was invited. I was not aware, but he was invited courtesy that he's a man of God and they minister together, but from the same church. So the moment we went, there was still nothing between us. We were just going to minister, and we came back without any spark, just friends. Just friend, a friend. Actually, as a man of God, I think that is how best I would put it. Just a man of God to me.
After the impartation, I think it was after the second or third Sunday, she called me outside after the service, and she told me, I'm the one you laid hands on and I fell, this is what happened. So she was like, there are things that I needed you to help me overcome. So I prayed for her again outside, and now this time, I noticed that, okay, she needed some help. So I just prayed for her and she went home. So in that invitation, this brother, we used to do ministry together even now. So he just invited me, there's somebody we need to go and pray for in Nakuru. So I accompanied him. I didn't even know it was her sister. So when she got into the car with us together, we just went. There's nothing, actually for me, by that time I was actually dating. So there was nothing in my mind that this could be somebody in the near future. So we just went for that ministration, then came back, and it just ended that way.
At that point, I wasn't dating because it was after, I think I was healing from a previous breakup, and I didn't want anything to do with a man. Actually, I had told God that I don't want a man. I have given up. In this journey, let me just serve you. So anything to do with a man, please don't bring such conversations to me. So I just want to seek you and know you more, and anything to do with a man, it's a no-go zone. So what made us to be close, but on friendship basis, I remember a certain time, you heard what I just said before, that I was so much desperate for God. And so I needed someone who can teach me, who I can ask all the questions that I need to, offload every question that I have about God. I needed answers. So I needed someone at least who I can be, not a pastor like per se that I have to keep going to church, but someone who can do follow-up, that we can talk, I ask any question on an open basis. So I remember a certain time, I got a dream, and I saw him. Remember, he's still a new face, not so close to me, but I had a dream. We were rolling somewhere in a grass, like somewhere steep. And I was like, now what kind of a dream is this? And who is this guy? And is this what we call teaching? Is this something that is supposed to, you see, like something that is supposed to entice you to get close to someone, you know? So I remember after that morning, after I dreamt, that morning, he called me. And he told me, I think the first time you called, you were just asking how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you call me? And I had a dream with you last night. You know, it was kind of funny. It was not adding up. But I said, maybe this is the way God, I think you want this guy to teach me. So his introduction bit was like, I have so many questions about God. And I was like, yes, I have a lot. I think hata nilikuwa na beef na God. So I needed so many things to be cleared. So I remember that was the first time we set a date to meet, to learn, not even to know each other. My business was I needed to know, to have answers about God. So I remember he told me where we need to meet, and we met in town. And I had a notebook to write the things that I will learn concerning God, the questions that I had in regards to everything that I had gone through and all that kind of stuff. So that is how it started, how we started getting closer.
Initially, we started becoming friends, often because she was living with those her friend who was attending church. So oftentimes we would meet. So one time in my prayer, God tells me that I need to teach her. And the manner in which God wanted me to teach her was like closely. Like God was suggesting for me, this is your wife. But I told God, I will not approach her. You go and tell her first. So that, I didn't want to come that close, because she had told me she doesn't want anything to do with men. She was still healing, and she was so tough. By the way, she was a tough lady, and she's still a tough lady. So those boundaries, she kept them. So when she had the dream, I was like, okay, God told me that now the dream is there. So I called her in the morning and we chatted. Then we had the first date. So the first date, I remember she wore a black dress and we were in a hotel. So we just talked. Then she was going to the washroom and I looked at her and I was like, God, I think she can be a good one. Because God had suggested it earlier, but I denied because I knew I was in a relationship. But the way I looked at her, I'm like, she could be a good one, because I loved her spirit and her soul. She was like a sponge. She would absorb everything, and even the manner of dealing with things, I'm like, okay, I might consider this, but now God has to guide me on how to go about it. So that was the first meeting. We learned, I taught her, we planned for another meeting. So there were subsequent meetings after that. And we realized that we were falling in love without knowing.
After the first meeting, I was still standing strong with my principles. I didn't want a man. And I remember, I don't know whether he was saying it to encourage me, because I remember I told him, I'm not looking for a man. I am not ready for one. But I remember he told me, you see, I am not even preparing you for myself. I am preparing you for another man. So I remember something that really stood out that moment was the fact that he told me, the moment you become, that is a topic by itself. The moment you become, you can become today and your man shows up. Actually, you used September, alisema September.
And we were in August by that time.
Yeah, akasema, the moment you become, your man can show up in a week's time in September and you get married in a week's time. And I was like, okay, that is okay, but I am still not ready for a man, And I stood strong with that. I was not ready. I had so many questions. So in as much as, you see, he's prophetic in his dimension. And that I didn't know, and I didn't care much as at that point. But he had a lot of information even without me knowing, and he wouldn't tell me, so that I don't jack and just decide I am not ready for this and I need to go somewhere else for someone else to teach me, you know. But he kept, I think it was his conversation with God that he kept following until I was never forced to be closed. Like, it came so natural. It's not that kind of a thing that you can say somebody decides to tell you, I'm falling in love with you. No. It's that kind of spark that comes without realizing what is even happening. Like, it's an agenda with God. He knew what he was doing, yeah. So it came so naturally, I didn't even realize it, but I started seeing that I'm becoming so fond of this guy, you know. Every time I want to learn, every time I want to be with him to ask questions, yeah.
You see, all these things we were working with God, because God initially had showed me everything. So I asked him, how am I going to transition from because the relationship I was in was really draining me spiritually. It was really draining me because I'm the one who was struggling to bring things on board, but the other person was reluctant. So God told me, now, in this case, if it is draining you in relationship, then it can drain you so much in marriage. But now I asked him, how am I going to go about it? He told me, now, you just call a meeting with the lady and talk maturely. God has always taught me that you don't hurt somebody, you don't run away or just disconnect, but you go and sit down with this person and tell this person, the far we are going, I don't see something coming up in as much as initially it was, but the way we are. So we sat down with the lady and we talked and we finished our relationship very well, and we bid each other bye. We are friends even up to date, we are still friends. So of course somebody must jack, or why are you doing this, blah blah, but I explained to her really. So now I was now embarking on the gold. Now I was chasing the gold now. So in the process, we used to meet several times, and now for me I'd gotten everything about her. There are information that I knew that I would not tell her at that moment, because I had learned how to feed her slowly by slowly. You know, when you are working on something that you know, at the end of it, I'm going to have her, but I don't want her to jack, because the way she was saying, I don't want any man. So I was just encouraging her. I'm preparing you for another man. Your man can come anytime, so that she doesn't have that blockage that I don't want to hear anything from this man. So as we went by, I was like, wow, this woman is really good. I remember telling one of my friends who are working with him, and I'm telling him that if I was to marry today, I would marry Lucy, because her heart is like a heart of a child. She's so free. Then I remember I started breaking protocol, like we would meet, I would hug her, and I would look at her, you know, I'm a loving man. So by that alone, I know I would be breaking the barricades that she had put for herself, and now actually we just found ourselves in love. I didn't tune her. I didn't tell her, would you marry me? I didn't tell her, I'm so and so and I'm in love with you. No. We found ourselves calling each other sweet and babe.
To start with, it was so funny, but there's always the way God uses things. Or I would even say it better, that God helped him win me, you know, because God knows all these spots. He knows where I tend to be weak, where I don't want to hear anything. But the questions that maybe I would ask him, they fall in line with exactly the answers that my body wants, my spirit wants, you know. So it was also giving me answers to the kind of a man I want. Because I remember it got to a place that we now didn't want to meet in hotels. No. So we would meet, because both of us were in Thika Road. We would meet, just have a walk. And in this walk, it's a walk of learning. So you go asking questions. And I remember a certain time we were around Safari Park, that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to go, I think, towards Kasarani, or I think that direction. Mm. And there's something I asked in regards to future, And the way he answered, I was like, I would want such kind of a man. I didn't know I was laying a trap for myself. So, because he like the way he was giving answers is exactly what I wanted for a man. You know, there are times that your body desired something, and it's until that moment that you find that thing that your body will identify that this is the thing that I've been looking for, you know. So I was like, hey, I think there's something sweet about this. I hope that God can give me such a man. And he was also hearing, and he knows that he knew the things that he was talking with God in regards to the wife that he wanted. So with time, nilijipata nimelegeza kamba. I was like, every time I miss this guy, I just want to be there to learn. But honestly, I was so, you see that kind of hunger, and that hunger that I had for God, I think that is the hunger that was unveiling the man that I needed in God. You know, it was not that aspect of going to seek somewhere outside, but it's the deeper I was hearing about God, the deeper it unveiled in him that this is a man, you know. So it gave me the comfortability and that kind of security that a woman needs, that I am so secure with this man, you know. Until it came to a place that this is a man that I honestly can fight for, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, so after finding ourselves in love, now we sat down and started planning on how we can go about this. For me, I told her I didn't want us to date for long. It was, for me, I knew I was mature and I was just looking for a way I can marry. So I told her, go and tell your parents that there's a man in the limbo. So we sat down and we started talking, planning for our future. When do we want to have our wedding? When do we want to just bring things together and just be a husband and a wife? So we were to introduce, like to say, on my side, it was not a hard thing. You know, for a man, it is not always hard. It is always for the lady to go and say, because it's on the lady's side that there are a lot of work. For me, I can just go today, tell my father, I found a woman and I'm going to marry her tomorrow. And my father will be, go ahead. So I told her to go and tell the parents. So I think she can narrate the story of how it went.
So after he told me that, and after I was totally convinced and I was ready. You see, you have to, for me, I just don't give chances. I'm this person that by the time I'm saying yes to something, then I am ready to fight for that thing, you know, because that gives me that I would say tenacity or the energy to fight and to stand strong for that thing. Like I've made up my mind. So I remember it was not easy because remember he's a Luo, I am a Kikuyu. So it was a tough game. It was a tough game. So I remember the first time I hinted my mom about it, it was like for real, you just decided to go all the way? You left all these men in Murang'a and just decided to go all the way? Of which it was very much okay for me because there's always a reason why someone has to speak such things. And I said, yes, that is the man I've decided. So it was not easy. Actually, that was the beginning of a tough game. Because my parents were not for it, and I was very much okay with that. Actually, I think the maturity that God needed, alikuwa shaibuild. And that, I think that was a necessity of first being taught the word so that I can have the grounding, you know, because there are things that can easily weigh you down when you get to, unaona your backlash when facing it and it is from your family. And I'm like, I think this one I cannot stand, you know. But I was so strong and it was nothing to hate my family for that because the battle came all the way until our wedding. But I didn't mind that because I knew what I was fighting for. I was convinced beyond any doubt that this is the man that I wanted to settle with, you know. So it gave me that strength. And I was very much okay because my family had a reason why they had to fight a different tribe, you know. But you see, some of these things, normally I say, if there's nobody who becomes mature to go overboard, then there's never going to be a redeemer in some of these things. So I decided to walk through it. Of course, kulikuwa na hiyo repassion with my family. I remember, I think we stayed almost a year without talking with my family, because I don't know what to explain, and I've already decided, and I am not backing out. But then later after that, I remember it was my sister's graduation, then we met with my mom, and the spark was still there, because I didn't hate them, you know. I was still very much okay with them, because I knew why they were doing that, and I knew for them they were doing it out of love, you know. But for me, I also knew something better. They don't know, which, you know, something new is never so much encouraged. And to break such fronts, you need to push. So I knew at some point later in future, they will come to accept this. So that is how it went through until we got married.
I took it positive, because you see, parents are always protective, and parents can protect you even when you are 90. Parents never realize that someone has matured, that they can make their own decision. So on her side, I knew it was the right of the parents to do whatever they wanted. But for me, I had decided, she's the woman I'm going to marry. So it doesn't matter the chaos or anything. And I had also seen it beforehand, so I was also prepared. Because I've always known that when you go there, you see, there's that stereotype that has been in communities, blah, blah, blah. So we wanted to break this stereotype. So I was always encouraging her. Don't worry, your parents will appreciate our marriage. She was also tough. She's a tough cookie. So she was never backing up. She was saying, you are the man that I'm going to get married to. You are the husband I've chosen. So whether they like it or not, we are going to fight this battle. So the thing that helped us win this battle was we never fought separately. Her battle is my battle. Anyone who hates her is hating me. Anyone who hates me hates her. So we combined together and became one, and we fought this battle together until we won it. You see, even in that journey, I never went to their home officially for an introduction or anything. The first time I went was a burial for Yoshosh.
Yeah.
The grandmother died. So I just went there, and I think that's where also the parents saw me from far. We didn't have any interactions. So that's the only time I went. And there was like no formal introduction, like this is the man that I've chosen. Because of that heat, we stayed put. We said no, there's no need of going there, because we are going to face a lot of backlash. So we stayed like that. She insisted. She would be called home, summoned, like, have you made your mind? Have you decided otherwise? No. So tough. She'd be, I think there was a time she was summoned home, the aunties and other people were called to convince her otherwise. But she's like, no, I've decided. So it was left like that. So the parents thought with the time should give up and maybe go and tell them that I've decided otherwise. But our relationship continued growing stronger and stronger and stronger. Something that made us grow strong also, we were living in our pastor's house, our spiritual father. He had a big house, so we are all there, men having their own rooms and ladies having their. So that would keep us together. Like there are a lot of things, we'll pray together, solve issues together, everything we'll do together. Because now we are close to each other and we are doing everything, because these battles there were no joke. You see, these things, they might appear in the natural as the parents protecting, but the spiritual connotation that are behind this. So you don't fight it in the natural. You go into the spiritual realm and fight it in the spiritual. When you win it there, then you can win it on the natural.